This route is in an area north of Moab called the San Rafael Swell, and it is not nearly as crowded as the Arches Moab area. Bikepacking.com lists this as a 2 to 3 day ride. I'm going to try to do it in 2 days. This route absolutely requires that you have a fat tire bike. There's too much sand on it to even attempt it on a normal mountain bike. So I will be using my fat tire with the 3.8 27.5-inch wheel. On the bikepacking.com website, this is listed as a 7.5 ride. That puts it in the difficult category. So keep that in mind if you're thinking about doing this route yourself, that it is very strenuous. Some of the things that I've read about this route is don't let the actual mileage of the loop fool you. At only 55 miles, it sounds like it'd be easy, but it is extremely strenuous. So if you stick around to the end of the video, I'll give you my thoughts on exactly what I thought of the route and how it all worked out.
All right, so the trail starts right off with lots of sand and some pretty rocky downhills. Wow, so this is what we're heading out into. We will go down several of these big valleys here, and then we've got some climbs along the way. Looks like a really great route. So I have an incredibly heavy bike today, and that's because I have to carry so much water out here. There are no water sources, and because of that, I am carrying more than 3 gallons of water. And then I've got all my camping gear and food and everything else. So it's quite a load on the bike. Okay, so this is the first fork in the road here, Eagle Canyon. You come down, and at the bottom of this wash, you can go straight down the middle of it, or you can go kind of straight and then up the side. And we want to go up the side. They recommend that you ride this route in a clockwise direction rather than counterclockwise. If you went this way, you'd go counterclockwise. If you go this way, you go clockwise. And they say that just for bike packing, the clockwise is a little bit better route. There's just more rideable on it. There's still a fair amount of walking, I believe, on some of these really long rocky uphills. We'll see when we get to them what I run into there, but so far everything's been rideable and very fun, but a beautiful area. Trying to pick a route that's rideable here so far. We're doing it, but whew, yeah, that's booger. That's really steep. Your gearing makes all the difference out here. Go for low gears that are a couple of steps below what you would normally ride with. Okay, and here's the next climb. These are interesting because all these little pockets hold this sand, and so you come off of this nice sticky slick rock, and then your tire spins on these little pockets of sand, So it takes a little bit of getting used to for sure. I'm sure by tomorrow I'll be just fine with it, but for right now it feels a little strange. It's still morning here, but it's getting pretty hot. It's supposed to be up close to 90 today. Okay, here is the first obstacle that you're probably going to have to walk. I know I do. Real big ledges here. And it'd be one thing on a light, unloaded bike, but not when you've got 60 pounds of gear on it. So, yeah, I'm going to walk up to the top and keep going. What a great area. I love riding in the desert. It is just so much fun. Okay, this is the sign that we just rolled up on, so I think we're on the right track here. And we've got some great bluffs, many miles out there, probably a good 15 or so miles that I know we're going around some of those. So we've got a long ways to go. We're barely getting started here. This trail is nothing but ledges, just one after another for miles here. This is really shaking my bags loose. I've had to stop a couple of times and tighten straps back up. We're heading down to the valley floor here, and then we're gonna skirt around and end up going out and around all this stuff. But check out some of the stuff that's in the foreground here. No one has been through this sand in a few days, so it's nice and smooth. I do like the sand sections for just how smooth they are. It's really pretty cool to ride through this stuff. Ooh, it gets really deep and you start to slide sideways. But you definitely want a gear or two lower than what you would normally ride with just to get through this stuff. If you can just gear way down and just spin, you'll make it through. The goal here isn't speed, it's just to keep pedaling, keep spinning. So it's this stuff here that requires you to have a fat tire bike. I'm kind of spinning out as I try to go up this. I'm able to ride it, but with my 3.8 wide tires, even they are kind of digging in a little bit. I'm trying to be super careful on how I negotiate all this stuff because I don't want to break anything, obviously. Way back here, there's not anybody coming by to save me, that's for sure. Coming around here, and we're heading for those huge monuments that are out there. Oh man, that's slippery stuff. Wow. I'm just spinning out at the back there. I'm going to probably try to cover a little more than half of the course today, just because I know what's coming tomorrow. these cliffs are huge. I know they don't probably come across that way up with the GoPro. It's not a great landscape camera. We've got a ton of this unbroken, undisturbed sand through here that's just kind of drifted in. You can see the wind ripples. I have to keep looking back and making sure that I haven't dropped anything on the trail. It's rough enough that I'm bouncing stuff out of my pockets here every once in a while. I have tubes in my tires, and I've got sort of a fix-a-flat type product called Flat Out in those tubes, and so it is really pretty good flat protection, which you really need out here because everything is sharp and pointy and trying to get you. Every time I come down one of those sections of ledges, I have to look back and make sure my bags are still there. This route is a lot of fun because it comes into every one of these little box canyons and then heads up on a steep pier and goes around the bluff and then back into the next little canyon. But really pretty. All right, been riding about 4 hours and really enjoying this route. Just these big canyons. Bike's doing awesome. Really liking those 3.8 tires in the sand. Those work great. That's one little tree just hanging on the edge of this cliff here. That's funny. I'm hoping to get some more drone footage this evening as the wind settles down. We'll see. But right now I run the risk of losing it out over one of these big open spaces, and I don't want to do that. So if I'm where I think I am here, I've got about 20 more miles before I want to start looking for a camping spot. There's an awful lot of this kind of ledgy, rocky stuff around here. Fortunately, I ride in the Rocky Mountains all the time, so I'm used to this kind of stuff. I usually just ride through it, but it's still a little bit sketchy sometimes. We got a trail down into that The sand in this wash is really deep, and I'm actually pedaling to go downhill here. So I think this is the one they're talking about, where it's about 10 miles of this. And yeah, we'll see how that goes, but it's definitely a workout. Well, I was trying to get a ride-by shot to show you how deep the sand is, but I can't even get started again. I'm gonna have to push for a few minutes. There actually is a puddle down here, a little stream kind of running through here. I personally wouldn't drink out of it because this area has a lot of heavy metals in it, arsenic, lead, all of that. So unless you have a filter that removes that as well, probably not the safest thing to drink. These big sand dunes next to the road just all blow out onto it, and this stuff is so deep. Boy, this just gets harder and harder. The further down you go into this gully, the deeper the sand gets. It's really to the point where I'm just kind of having to walk the bike here. So that's this is the direction we're heading here. My only hope is that as we climb, we get out of this sand. Boy, it's just been ridiculous. Okay, well, the other cold wash here is just as bad as far as sand goes. So, because I think I've got a few miles to walk here, but it's literally unrideable even with fat tires. You just sink in and you're working way harder than you are just getting off the bike and walking. Now, if you hit it right after a rainstorm or something, you might be able to roll on it, but it's been so dry here. A couple of hunters came by in a side-by-side and gave me nice cold water, so that was great. But they said this is even worse than they've ever seen. There just hasn't been a whole lot of moisture here in the past couple of months. Yep, still walking. We've had some clouds come in, which were super welcome because that has cooled things down quite a bit. The light out here is really nice right now, and we're rolling up on this big arch here. That means I'm getting pretty close to where I want to spend the night. So we're gonna probably go another 5 miles or so and then set up. This is a really nice area here. And I'm really happy to say the hunters came by again and gave me a beer. So it's just a steady uphill until we hit a big steep that's going to put us up on top of the bluff here. 3 small camping spots on a side pull off here from the main trail, and this is just such a great spot. I thought I'd grab one of those. So I've got these all to myself. Nobody's out here tonight, and should have a real nice quiet night. The hunters up here told me that there are a lot of bears in the area, so I'm just sticking one of my food bags up in one of these trees, and we'll hope for the best. But this is a really awesome camping spot. Very pretty. Hey, good morning everyone. What a great morning it is here. It's perfectly still, and a nice warm temperature. So what a incredible place to wake up. This is just such a beautiful area here. I would strongly suggest you try to find this spot here. We're just a few miles past the first arch. If you're coming in here to camp and doing the route on the clockwise pattern, and it seems like a pretty logical place to try to camp, and it is really amazing. What a great spot. It's just so quiet here too. I came out or looked out last night to see what the stars look like, and we had just enough of a hazy cover, kind of like what's over here right now, that I couldn't see the stars. This morning we're starting the big climb back up through all of this stuff here, and we're going to get up on the highlands. Hey, at this point all I care about is that we are out of the sand, so that's great. I'm loving seeing the red dirt and the rocks again. Coming out of your tent in the morning and seeing this kind of scenery is exactly why we're out here doing this. What a beautiful area. For this trip, I'm carrying the REI Passage 2 tent, which is what I consider like a 1.5 person. It's just a large 1-person tent. It's big enough that you can get all of your bags and gear in there for organizing for the next day and all that, which I like to do. Then I have an REI Trailbreaker sleeping bag. It's good down to 30 degrees, which was perfect for last night. I slept for a solid 10 hours last night and feel pretty good this morning. I was also sleeping on the Stratus insulated pad. This did a really great job of keeping me off the cold ground. No leaks here in the desert. Sometimes these little pokey things come through the bottom of your tent and give you a flat in the middle of the night, but everything held up well. We'll take a look at how my bike is set up before I get everything back on it. Here on the back I've got the Aero Spider rack. I've got a mount on either side for my dry bags. These racks are super sturdy. I don't worry about it breaking or anything falling off once everything's attached. The strap system's real nice. Here in the middle I've got the Salsa frame bag, and that is made for the Salsa bikes, but it fits this frame just exactly how I wanted, so that works really well. This is just a top smaller area here for snacks as I go. I also keep snacks up here in my bar bag. And if you notice how this zips up, these are rubberized zippers, so it's super waterproof. It's also lined everywhere with this rubberized stuff, so no water's getting in there. I mean, it would take a real downpour to get anything inside this bag wet. So these Salsa bags are killer. It's got a bigger pouch on the other side, which is for the bottom. And yesterday I was carrying a 2-gallon bladder in here full of water, and I've since transferred most of that. There's a little bit left in the bottom, but most of it back into my bottles here on the front forks. I'm carrying these Yeti bottles. I've taken some of my water out for breakfast this morning, but these, how many liter are these? I forget exactly what the size is, but they're a big bottle. So when I start out with this one full, I'm essentially carrying 7 water bottles on the front of the bike here. Here on the top bar, I've got the Rock Brothers. I can keep my phone underneath this flap, and I've got all my GoPro drone batteries in this bag. I also have my point and shoot camera in there, so if I just stop and want to get a landscape picture or something, it's easy to get to. I've got a USB charged light here on the front. I've also got a couple of other lights in my bag as backup if I needed to ride at night. I didn't know how hot it was going to be here, and there was a chance that I was going to get out here and it was going to be 100 degrees and I'd be having to ride in the evenings and into the nighttime just to avoid the high temps. But it looks like everything's good here. We're going to be just fine today. It looks like a really perfect day for biking. But I should be able to finish up this route today, no problem. Once we get back up on top, I think we've got some easier rolling. Fingers crossed on that one. I'm sure that this tent's old enough now that they probably don't make the Passage 2 anymore. These are, everything that I'm using on this trip is from REI. But there's got to be an equivalent to it. And it is a great size tent for a single person. It'd be cozy for two, but you can make it work. Okay, got 10 hours of good sleep, got a decent breakfast, pretty high calorie, and ready to hit the trail again. So it doesn't get any better than this when you only have to get on your bike and ride and have fun. Yeah, let's see what this sign says here. So they're calling this one Fix It Pass. Very steep and chunky here. Make sure you got good brakes before you head into this section. This is the kind of ride you think of when you think of Utah. It appears that we're going to ride some switchbacks up and over this ridge. Real steady grind from the canyon floor up to here. We are now coming over the top of this bluff and we're heading out towards some of the bigger canyons that will be on our left. I've had some really nice downhills over the last few miles that have really helped me to cool down because the temperature is already climbing pretty fast. So that's been really nice. Initially, I thought I might come out to about this spot to camp last night, but that sand just wiped me out. So I ended up stopping early, and I'm actually really glad I did. Where I ended up camping was such a great spot. So I'd highly recommend grabbing that one when you're coming through. Here I'll show you what the ride profiles look like out here on the trail. So just time after time, you've got these big valleys and climbs just over and over. So these are really nice to cool down, but you know every single time you go down, you're going to be coming back up again. Right, I just came down the Warsh here and came up onto this sign which says Head of Sinbad, and that is the direction that we want to go. So I'm glad to be turning off of this Warsh before it gets more sandy than it is, and we'll head back up on the rocks and hopefully onto some more solid ground. There's been lots and lots of this kind of ledgy stuff here, which is really fun. I like this stuff. And what's really nice too is my bike probably weighs at least 15 pounds lighter than it did yesterday at this time, because I've drank that much water. This slick rock kind of riding is really fun. We're looking at the profile here, and when it keeps going up and up, so I'm assuming that we're just going up and over this bluff ahead of us here. We'll see. I'm starting to see more cactus on the south side of this mountain. Okay, we got one more valley behind us. I'm stopping and eating some lunch here. It's about noon. Bike's doing great. Everything's rolling along nicely, no mechanicals or anything. The map shows that we go down and into the bottom of this valley right here, and then we climb straight up and over this guy. And this entire section of climb is red on the profile, so it's going to be just extreme vertical. I hike a bike section here. It says vertical, and as you can see, very loose rock. So I am not able to ride this, and I doubt I could do it on my mountain bike without 50 pounds of gear on. This is really steep. Yep, still pushing up. All right, we're over the top, so we've left another valley behind, and we're going to come around this way and we'll see what we've got on this side of the hill. This is a very sandy route right here, but it's a whole different thing than what we had yesterday. At least underneath this is a hard packed base, so you're only riding through 2 or 3 inches of sand. So this is very rideable, unlike that stuff in the coal wash yesterday. We just rolled up on this fenced off area. I believe there's supposed to be some petroglyphs in here. Let's go and take a look. It is called the Lone Warrior. How cool is that? Get as close as I can. It's incredibly well preserved. We've been in deep sand riding for a while now, so a lot more effort just to keep moving along. We just came through tunnels underneath I-70, the major interstate here, and we're heading back out and into these bluffs over here. Hey, we're pretty remote again. We're coming up on the sign here for Swayze's cabin, taking the turn to the right. And hopefully it'll take us around this big bluff that we need to get to the other side of that. This has been great riding through this valley. It's got a combination of ups and downs, but I've had a mile or two that have been really smooth like this. I'm just stopping for a quick protein bar break and to grab a little bit more water. Nice area to ride through though. Coming down this canyon here and came up on this really nice arch. I believe this one's called Slipper Arch. Very vertical, kind of unusual for Utah. And then right after I pulled up here, a couple of guys on ATVs pulled up and gave me a nice cold water. So you can't beat that. But I've got a few more miles of downhill in this canyon, and so far it's been rideable. Even when the sand gets steep, it is steep enough that I can kind of keep rolling through it and not have to work so hard. I just noticed that the image stabilization on my GoPro has gone haywire and the images are jumping all over the place. I hope I haven't missed out on a whole bunch of good footage. So I'm using my point and shoot here, but these are the 2 highway bridges over the little canyon that I'm riding down. It's the start of the weekend and all the ATVs are pouring in.
Hey everyone, I am back from that great ride. It was so much fun. As you can see by the way the footage ended, I was having problems with the camera. I also had problems with my drone not flying and not following me correctly. I've been using one of these hover drones for the last year or so, and it's really been pretty much nothing but problems. So I wouldn't recommend them. I should mention that I'm right at the end of May. I was coming off the trail on the Friday before the Memorial Day weekend, so the ATVs were just pouring onto the trails, just big packs of them, you know, 6, 8, 10 at a time coming down the trails. So I'd have to get off and get out of their way. But I would suggest that you probably ride this during the week if you can. I suspect that any weekend when there's nice weather, there's going to be a lot of people back there. My number one tip when doing this route is to carry a huge amount of water. I had a 2.5 gallon bladder, mostly full in my frame bag. I had big bottles on both sides of my forks. I had a water bottle on the bars, and I had a Hydro Pack on the back. And between that, I just about made it around. I probably would have been in a little bit of trouble last few miles if people hadn't given me a couple of bottles of water and a beer along the way. So that helped a bunch. But yeah, you need to take much more water than you anticipate, because when the temperatures go up out there, you're just sweating that off so quickly. And it doesn't really even form as sweat. It's just disappearing from your body. There is no way that you should even attempt this ride on normal tires. So you got to have, I would say not even plus size tires. You got to have fat tires, 3.8 or bigger. If you've got one of those Moonlanders with 6-inch wide tires, great. Take it out there and have fun. There is one section down one of the coal washes. It's about 10 miles. And then about probably 5 miles up the next wash. So about 15-mile section there of unbroken sand. And I would say I walked at least half of that. So 7, 8, 9 miles of walking in that deep, deep sand. Now, the hunters that went by live in the area, and they said they've never seen the conditions quite so soft and quite so dry back there. They were even getting their UTV stuck. So just keep that in mind. If you're riding at a time of year when the sand's going to be a little more settled, when there's been some moisture, you're probably going to be able to roll over a lot of it. But I was there at a time when it was probably the worst conditions to be trying to ride in, and it was really something. I ended up pushing at least half of that 15 miles, and pushing a heavy loaded bike through deep sand is no fun at all. The rest of the riding was awesome. Typical Utah kind of riding, and so much fun. I would give this route today a difficulty rating of about 8, simply because of the sand conditions. It was just really hard to push through an awful lot of that. My wife says that I need to include a wife worry rating as well. I was several hours late getting back to where I had cell service and could let her know that everything was okay. And so she gives it a wife worry rating of 9 on that. But that's pretty much it for the Secret Mesa Loop. Really fun ride. And I would suggest that anybody that has a fat tire bike and the will to get out and push through some sand, give it a shot, because it really is a beautiful ride. But thanks for watching, everybody, and I'll see you in the next one.